I have thoughts. Oh, do I have thoughts to share today? Let's get into it. Hi, my name is Jeanette, and I want to thank you for joining me on the channel Jane Reads. So, I was tagged to do the I'm So Annoyed tag by Tammy over at Protagonist Pub, so I will link her video below. And I'd seen a couple other people do this tag, and I was like, oh, I have thoughts about this. So then when she tagged me, I was like, good! I get to do this tag. And I mean, I was thinking about doing it anyways, but when she tagged me, it was like, okay, now I need to do it. Okay, let's just jump right into it. Question number 1 is, do publishers ever do things that you find annoying? And share an example. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. The first thing I thought of was numbers in series, on the cover or on the spine. And I immediately thought of the series that I'm always like, what book number is this? And that is the Hope Harbor series. So this is currently a 9-book series. Obviously I'm not holding 9 books. And with 10 coming out in April. So the first book is Hope Harbor. And I don't know, maybe the first book, like, it wasn't decided to be a series, and then she decided to continue, because it doesn't say, it just says Hope Harbor or novel. Like, it doesn't say anywhere on here. Whereas the rest of the books say a Hope Harbor novel. They each say that. But nowhere on the cover or on the spine does it say what number it is. Now, each book is considered, like, could be read as a standalone because the storyline through them does not carry over into the next book. However, characters do carry over. The main couple, it is a romance series, the main couple in each book is different. But they make appearances in the next book. And there is one character in particular that shows up in all the books throughout. So yes, it's a series, especially if you want to follow, like, the timeline of the community and stuff. And every time I go to pick up, like, the next book, or it's like, okay, where am I? What's the next book? So then I have to pull up the book list and kind of, okay, 1, 2, 3. So Sandpiper Cove is book number 3. There's certain ones I know what book number they are, but there's others like I have Sea Rose Cottage on my TBR for March, and I'm like, is that book 7 or is that book 8? Like, where am I in the series? It is book 8. So I'm getting more caught up than I thought. So yeah, that is the first thing. And this is not the only series I have, as an example. Another series I have is Carrie Stewart Parks. This is a Gwen Macy novel. They both say that on it. I know that it's a 4-book series. I know that this is book 4. Only because I wanted to read it and I realized it was book 4. I have no idea if this is 2 or 3. I know it's not book 1. I'm pretty sure it's not book 1. Yeah, no. But nowhere on it does it say. Other than a Gwen Macy novel. And I have another example. The Drew Farthington Mysteries. Again, nowhere on it does it say. And in this series, you are following the same character from the first book into the second book and on, right? It is a 5-book, 6-book series. Yeah, 6-book series, because I own 5 of them. I'm missing 1. And nowhere on it does it say. Now, you'll see I have a little sticky note on this one. And my mom knows how much I am a proponent for reading series in order of publishing. Like book 1, then book 2, book 2. Don't read a series out of order. I've given her heck so many times about that and really teased her about it because she doesn't care. So she gave me books 2 and book 3 of this series and knew that it would bother me. So she put little sticky notes on them. And this one says book 3. And the other one said book 2. So that I knew, okay, I can't read this till I find book 1. So, thank you, Mom. So, yeah, that is one thing that really drives me insane. The second thing that drives me insane, I should put this the other way. Why? They're by the same publisher, too. I don't get it. And it's not that this is a small book. This is a large book. Because if I take that one, right? Pretty much the same size. I mean, a little bit smaller, but not much. Like this one, like, I just don't get it. Now I know there's like worse. It could be much worse. At least this one fits my shelf standing up. But yeah, I don't understand, especially when they're done by the same publisher. Why are they not the same size? Okay. I have books all over my table here. Am I going to be able to know what I'm talking about? Okay, so that is number 1. Number 2 is, have you ever been annoyed by a spoiler? Even something as simple as someone telling you there's a great twist. Yes and no. Honestly, I feel like sometimes the back summary of a book gives away too much of the story. And a lot of times, I will only read the very top like kind of the little summary, or even the first paragraph. Especially if it's a book I don't know at all, I will read the first paragraph, but I never read the full thing. Because I'm like, I don't want to know that much about it. But then it's also like, even if somebody does give me a twist, or tell me, oh, there's a great twist, or they happen to say, like, you know, oh, so-and-so dies. Well, what happened? How did they get there? Like, I mean, I still don't know that, right? So I still got to read the book to find out all the answers, all the details. So, no, it doesn't really annoy me, but I also try to avoid it. Okay, number 3. Have you ever been annoyed by what you discovered in a little free library, book sale, or a used bookstore? Tell us what you found and why it was so annoying. I don't really go to little free libraries very often, so I can't say I've really found anything there. I have found advanced reader copybooks at thrift stores, and they are not to be resold. And it's like, that's a little annoying because they're not fulfilling. Now, the one thing about thrift store shopping that I do, this is just in general. When I go into a thrift store and I go to the book section and the books are not organized. And when I mean not organized, I don't mean by genres or categories like cooking here, fiction here, whatever. When you go to the fiction section and they're not alphabetized, it drives me bonkers because I want to be able to go in and like, okay, oh, I like this author. Now, I totally get the thrift store side of it. I have worked in a thrift store, kind of behind the scenes and stuff. I know how hard it is to keep the books organized. Or just overwhelming number. Like, not only the time it takes to sort them by alphabetical, like to put them on the shelves, but then you've got customers going through, rifling. Things don't get put back just like any other shelves, right? So I get it. But I love going into ones that are sorted. And my favorite thrift store chain to shop in right now is there's a Mission, kind of a chain of thrift stores called the Mission Thrift. And in that store, they will have a Christian fiction section, and then they will have general fiction. And I love checking the Christian fiction first, and then I do go through the other shelves. Now, I don't know. I'm going to put it here. I feel like I might talk about this later, but I'm going to put it here. So my mom always says to me, how do you find Christian fiction so like in a thrift store? And my secret is, especially when it's just like general fiction is all together and they're not sorted by alphabetized. Oh, I just realized something else. Okay, oh well. Okay. So when you're looking at the shelves and you've got all your fiction just there, what I will tend to do is I quickly look through the box and I look at the symbols on the bottom because I know which ones are Christian fiction publishers or tend to publish Christian fiction. So I will come across and be like, oh, that's a Revel book. So who's the author? And then that's how I because reading all the names on every single book can be very overwhelming. And it's just like, wow. It's so much easier for me to just look at the picture. So these examples here, I made sure to grab different publishers. So I have Bethany House, Revel, Thomas Nelson, nope, Mahomet, I don't know how to say that one, and Thomas Nelson. And then like there's Tyndale, there's Zondervan, but these are just the ones I have right here. So that's how I do it. I just quickly look through to find. But I really prefer, like if I'm in the Mission Thrift Store, for example, I will go to the Christian fiction section first. I will look through those, and then I'll take a glance through the other, and then I'll be like, well, that should be in the Christian fiction. That should be. It drives my husband bonkers, but that's okay. Okay. Let's move on to question number 4. When it comes to short story collections, are you annoyed if there is a novella in the middle of the collection? Well, no, because I don't read short story collections, so I have never come across. And what's the difference between a short story and a novella? Now, I do know, like, the love-inspired suspense, for example, these average between 200 to 225 pages. This one is 217 pages. And this would be considered a novella because it's half the length of a full-length book, give or take. I mean, it's also quite a bit smaller, right? Okay, I do read these. In particular, love-inspired suspense is my kind of preferred. However, I'm not a big novella fan. So I'm not going to pick a short story at all. Like, very, very rare. I can think of 2 short stories I've read that I've really enjoyed, but usually I want more. I need more of the characters or more of the story, whatever. The thing that does annoy me when it comes to novellas is when they're in the middle of a series. So you have, your 1, 2, 3, and then you have a 2.5, which is the 2.5 is the novella. Or you have a prequel, so 0.5. And I'm just like, I don't want to read a novella because I want more of the story. However, I will read the novella because I like the series and want more of the series, the characters. So it kind of gets me, but they're not usually my favorites of them. And sometimes I'll be like, nah, I'm not going to get it. So, yeah, I'm not a novella fan. Okay, number 5. Deckled edges, beautiful or annoying? I don't have an answer for this because I don't have experience with a book I've read with deckled edges that I can think of. I do own one book that I know that's on my shelf that has deckled edges, and I'm hoping to read it in June for a prompt on one of the reading challenges I'm doing. So maybe after that, I will have an opinion. I don't know. Okay, number 6. Other people's annotations in a used book or a library book. Annoying, or are you okay with it? Well, let's start with, don't write in a library book. It's not your book to write in. The second thing is, I personally don't write in my books. And if I see a book written in, like at a thrift store, I won't pick it up. For example, I have written in like 2 books I can think of, which is kind of funny in a way. Because the one book I automatically think of that I've written in is my Bible. I have written in my Bible. But that is for myself, that I'm not going to give that away, whatever, right? But in a general book that you might donate at some point, or, like, unless you're going to keep it forever, don't write in it. The other book that I know that I've written in is this one, The Body by Charles Colson. I read this for a college course, and it was one of the required readings, and we had to take notes on it, and we had to write a paper and stuff. And it's not a great page, but I have written in this book. I don't know if you can even see that. But there is markings all throughout of different things that are underlined and marked. Again, you can't really see it. It's not huge. Like, I actually, in my head, I thought it was more than what it is. As I'm flipping through it now, it's like, oh, it's actually not as bad as I thought. Like, there's a few, but like, I mean, I've underlined a lot in that page. But because of that, that's why it's still sitting on my shelves. I don't know if I'm going to reread it, but I'm also not going to donate it, because who wants a book that's written in? I personally don't. Then, like, for example, I have this Bible study series, A Woman After God's Own Heart by Elizabeth George. And these are designed to be written in. They're designed with, like, you know, you look up the Bible verse, you write down an answer, right? I don't write in these. I have used them, but I have a notebook where I record, like, I'll write down, like, the scripture reference and my answer, or, you know, number, like, I'll write down, like, this is lesson number 7, right? So in my notebook, I'll write lesson number 7, 1 Timothy 3, 1-7, and then question 1, and then I'll write the answer. But I don't write out the full question, but I know, like, kind of where I was during. Because then, like, I could reuse this book, or somebody else could use it and have their own thoughts, or I could, you know, I might have different thoughts the next time. So I don't want my notes in my book. Personal preference. Okay, then number 7. If there's a series or a collection of certain kinds of books, like an imprint, and changes are made, are you annoyed or are you okay with it? If yes, give an answer. Give a sample. Okay, the one I think of with imprints is Love Inspired Suspense. So obviously you can see the banner on this has changed. So this one is from 2011 and this one is from 2018. So, like, it's changed over time. Even the spine is different, right? Like, the logos are different. This doesn't bother me at all. They are not part of a series. They're not really a collection. They're published in, like, way different years. I'm okay with things like this. What does really kind of bother me is this is a 3-book series. One, not only is the 3rd book not the same height, again, same publisher, but see how glossy, matte, completely, and Booktube. So they do have the book numbers on the front. They do not have them on the spine, but at least they're on the front. But see how book 1 is glossy, mainly black. Book 2, glossy, mainly black. Book 3, matte, and this big green banner. Why? I don't get it. Now, one thing that I noticed as I was going through, okay, like, I think of Hope Harbor because it's a longer series, right? Okay. So, we have the author name, the book title, a picture. Well, that's not Hope Harbor. The author name, book title, picture. Right? All the way through. Every book like this. The only one that is a bit different is this one. And the only difference is kind of how the title is. But as I said, this is book 1. Maybe it wasn't going to be a series. And then she's just continued it. But this is book 7. This is book 4. Like, so they're still the same. Book 3 and book 2 is the same type of thing. I appreciate that because they flow nicely. Another thing that really drives me insane when we're talking about, like, changes in series imprints is changing a book cover. And it just drives me insane because I will see a book cover and be like, oh, I really like that book. And then I'll see it later, I'm like, well, that's not the book I read. Or there's one book I can think of in particular that it was being promoted on Instagram and with, like, new cover, and I was like, but it didn't say anywhere that it was a re-release. And so when I saw, oh, she came out with a new book, and I was like, oh, this sounds so familiar. And then I'm looking it up, I'm like, I've read this book, but that wasn't the cover. Like, and then I discovered she redid the cover. And I'm like, stop trying to trick me to think you have a new book, is how I felt. Like, it just drove me insane. There is another book that I know, like the one I immediately think of when I think of book covers changing is 5 Days in the Sky. So I read it with the original cover, and then it got re-released, and I know like the cover changed because the publishing house changed. It was out of print and then got re-released, so the publishing house changed. And here's the new cover. Personally, I prefer the old cover better than the new cover, but I think that's also because it's the one that I read the book with, so it is the one I'm attached to. It's the one, like, as soon as I read it, or as soon as I see it or think of that book, that's the cover I think of, not the new cover. But another, like, example is same publishing house. So Irene Hannon's Heroes of Quantico series. So this is the original covers. This is book 1 and book 2. Did I do that in the right way? Yes, I did. And here is book 3. Because I don't own book 3 in the original covers. They re-released the series with new covers. And so they don't match. Like, right? Like, very different. But it's the only way I could get book 3. And yeah. And like, I mean, look at the author's name. Like, yeah. It bugs me. Okay, let's move on. Number 8. Do decisions of characters in a novel ever annoy you? Share the book and what decisions you found annoying. Well, I'm not going to share the book. But I did do a reading vlog at the very beginning of this year where I was reading a book where all the characters in the book drove me insane. They just really annoyed me. It was like, couldn't there be one good character to root for? I really should have DNF'd that book. And I have DNF'd the series. I've got rid of the other one that I owned as part of that series. And so yes, it does happen. But then there's another book that I also did a reading vlog on it very recently, where there was one character in the book that annoyed me. And I mean, she was meant to be annoying. And for the main character, right? And then you see her grow throughout the book, and by the end, she's tried to change and trying to change. So she's grown. So I know why annoying characters are put in books. And at times, that's okay, because you see very annoying character, and then it's like, okay, no, I like the way you're going, keep going, you're rooting for them now, right? So I do like that. But there's times that I'm also like, why did you make that decision? So, yeah. Okay. Question number 9. Are you ever annoyed by how someone organizes their books? And what do you find annoying? Well, I am a organized by alphabet and group series together kind of person. And I also organize my books by read and unread. I don't put them together. It drives me insane when I see people just kind of mixing all their books together between unread and read. I'm like, how do you know which ones you've read and which ones you haven't read? Or it also drives me insane, like the rainbow shells, they're pretty to look at. I will say that. But how do you ever find a book? And then your series aren't together. Like, it just... And that goes with like books that are stacked on shelves like this as well. How do you find your books? Now, I mean, you can do however you want to do. It's just, it would drive me insane to come to your shelves and try to find a book. Because I'd be like, what? Like, yeah. And because I don't know what all my cover, like, you know, if I'm looking for a particular book, I don't know what the spine looks like. So where am I going to find it in a rainbow shelf? Yeah, no. But personal preference, I'm sure people are like, why do you organize your books that way? Right? We all have our personal opinion. Okay, number 10. Share something bookish that you find annoying. Okay, first thing that came to mind is when I'm watching like a YouTube video, for example, this is kind of where I see it the most, and somebody's reading a book and they bend the I'm not going to do it, but they bend the cover all the way back. And so basically you're like having, as I said, I'm not going to do it. And I'm just like, the poor book. Now, I have noticed that a lot of times when I've seen somebody do that, it is a library book they're reading, so they don't own the book. But you don't own the book, so don't do that either. I don't know, that's one thing that just drives me insane. I don't know why, really, like, yeah, I don't know. I don't really have a reason. Okay, and the other thing that I don't like, that I'm picking an ivory hand, and I don't mean to, it's the ones I have physically, is when the name of the author is bigger than the title of the book. Like, really? And I don't know if she's, like, for example, the title's bigger than the name. Well, I mean, this one's just as bad, right? Like, here's the name, here's the title. Yeah. But the ones that really drive me insane is there is some books that are like co-authored, right? Or the really popular author is promoting kind of a debut author. And I don't own any, so I can't really give an example, a true example. But where you have the popular author's name is huge, and then it'll say with or something, and it'll have the debut's author name here, like in tiny, and then the name of the book. So when you first see it, it's like, oh, she came out with a new book, and it was like, oh, no, she's promoting this author. And I know that, like, sometimes they're co-written, or, like, one writes one chapter, one writes another chapter, but it's also not that author's full book. I don't know, that drives me insane. And it's done to get you to entice you to pick up that book. I know why it's done on a marketing standpoint, but it drives me bonkers. And I've only read one of those books because it just drives me insane. Like, don't tell me it's a Lynette Easton book, for example, and it's not. Or a Susan May Warren book, and it's not. Like, they're the authors I know that have done this, and I mean, I get they're helping new authors, like helping authors get started. I get it, but I also, maybe their name, the real author's name, should be the biggest. Okay, my rant's over. Okay, number 11 is to tag other people. So I would love to see Katie from Paperbacks and Ponytails do this, and Elma from Elma's Book Journey do these, to kind of share their thoughts about this. Or I know there's a bunch of other people that have done it, but if you haven't officially been tagged to do it and you want to do it, please do it. It was really fun, and I hope I don't offend anybody with my opinions, but this is just my personal thoughts about this, and I am not telling you how to do anything. And I try not to, like, avoid buying a book because of certain things, right? If I'm really interested in a book, I'm going to buy it anyways. It's not going to turn me off. This kind of is the prime example, right? The re-release. I got it because I needed a book 3. Doesn't match, but I'm fine. I bought it anyways. Okay, so thank you for taking the time to watch this video today, and I would love if you would like chat in the comments about kind of, do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? Let's chat. Thank you. Have a good day. Bye.